Brownell. So hang on just a sec. We have a member share today, and it is to bring in a painting of your favorite artist's style. You guys remember that?
No.
Okay, well, we've got 2, possibly 3. So if you think of something between now and after the break, come sign in, okay? It's right here. Okay, also, just because Roberta gave us the application for membership, and that's going to be up here at the front too. If you like what you see, you're not a member, fork over your money and be a member. Okay, we got them all up here. Okay. Given that, okay, I'd like to introduce our illustrious demonstrator, Kim Brownell, who is known as the Wacky Doodle Quilter. She ignores the quilting police. Kim, we've got a couple of quilters back there. Do you guys want to just kind of raise your hand? Yeah, a couple of quilters who call them the quilter Nazis. Is that it? Yeah.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Kim's been going at this since 1993. Isn't that like 31 years?
Something like that.
Wow.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And we're going to find out what inspires her. Okay? So with that, please welcome Kim Brownell.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Let me know if you can hear or not. Okay. I'm Kim Brownell, of course, you just heard that. I started quilting it was around 1993. I was 32 years old. And for quilting, the quilt world, that's actually pretty late to the game. A lot of sewers and quilters learned to sew when they were quite young from members of their family. My female members of my family had no interest whatsoever in sewing. So I grew up not even knowing how to work a sewing machine. It wasn't until I was about 32 that I decided, you know what? I think I want to learn to sew. Go figure. Well, I didn't even know how to thread a machine, and you know what? There was actually supposed to be something below it that hooked up the thread so it would stay in the fabric. And I had to learn that one too.
You're mic'd okay.
Okay. So I took classes at our local Meissner's, and they were actually sewing classes, garment sewing. And as I was going in and out, I kept seeing these things called quilts. You could actually take fabric, cut it up, rearrange it, sew it back together, and get something that didn't look anything like the original. I wanted to try that. So I left the garment and I went to started the quilt world. And I did start with traditional quilting. But as I started working on traditional quilts, I found that if I had to make a block more than 3 times, I was done. And I still had to make a 4th if I wanted a set of placemats. So I said, forget that. Traditional quilting's not my thing. But I just started learning all kinds of different techniques and found that really heading towards the art world is really more my thing. So I'm more of a risk taker and an experimenter at this point, which is why I call myself the Wacky Doodle Quilter, because the quilting world is just starting to recognize art as a quilt form. It's, just now coming around. So there's still, we're kind of like balancing on the edge of both worlds, art quilters are. So that's what I found I wanted to do. And and that's why I say I ignore the quilting police, because the quilting police will keep you on the straight and narrow, but me, I'm off in my own world. So without further ado, when Fab asked me to speak, actually let me go back one step. I've actually been speaking. I speak to quilt guilds and at quilt shows, and I've been speaking for about 10 years, lecturing. I have a set of lectures I do, and I've been teaching classes for about 14 years. I have my own set of patterns, and I'll be showing you one today. I'm going to demonstrate today my normal technique, but when Fab first asked me, I thought, okay, what technique do I want to demonstrate? That's like asking a golden retriever, which ball do you want to chase today? He looks at you and says, all of them. But we don't have time for that. We'd be here till next year. So I've decided on my traditional technique that I normally teach. Let me show you a couple of the other techniques that I was debating about, but I decided no, we're going to put those to the side. Next time, maybe. One is collage, fabric collage. It's very similar to regular collage. And if you can't see anything, this is Emma, my daughter. She's also an art major. And I know, right? And my husband is actually a stagehand also, so this family is filled, right? So she can walk it around if anybody wants to see it closer, or we can pass them around. Or do I want to, yeah, you can sit them on the front table. Or do I want to show just general pictures? Let's take fabric and actually make a picture. And that's my crow. He was made from a trip that we took a long time ago, about when she was about 7 years old. We took a trip to the Point Reyes Lighthouse, and I had a Tinkerbell and Tannenball in the car. Yeah, people are getting the gist already. I haven't even gotten to the story yet. Well, anyways, we came back to the car, and the Tinkerbell and Tannenball was gone. So I'm standing there going, who would steal a Tinkerbell and Tannenball? Well, he was right above us in the pine tree with it in his beak, looking down at us. So I made this to remind us of that story. And I bet that Tinkerbell and Tannenball is being handed down from generation to that Rose family, even today. It's an heirloom. Okay, the technique I'm going to show you is what I call my quilted jigsaw puzzles, or it's most recognizable as kind of a stained glass technique. I call it quilted jigsaw puzzles because the way I do it is just like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. So I first started doing this technique. I didn't develop the patterns originally. I started with a pattern, and then when this pattern came out, it's from Three Swan Studios, and it's a phoenix. And they had you make these little strips of bias tape.
Kim, just a minute. Tony, can you turn off the top button?
It is on off.
Okay.
It is
Oh,
off.
I'm gonna come look because we're getting some pretty good feedback.
Are you?
But
If I
go-
turn the volume way down on it.
Go ahead.
I think I can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kim. You're good.
Okay. Anyway, you have to make little strips of black bias tape. You put the fabric down, cover parts of it with the little strips of black bias tape. And after about 3 inches of doing that, I was done with that. As you can probably tell, I have adult onset ADHD, or short attention span quilting, whichever you prefer. And so I developed my own way to do it, which is very, very simple. And it's more like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. So I started with this pattern, which is not my own pattern, but I started and developed the technique with this pattern. You can go. You can go ahead. What I found is you can pretty much do the technique as long as you have a line drawing. So this technique can be done with any line drawing. And I used to find patterns all the time on Urban Threads website, which is a machine embroidery website. Used to do hand embroidery, and you could buy just line drawings on it. That's no more. They don't do that anymore. It's only machine embroidery. So this is made from one of their patterns, and I just developed the technique, and then I started developing my own patterns. And this is the technique that actually most people ask for, is this technique class. My first pattern is the Sunrise Sunset pattern, and that's that one and the Mountain Majesty are the two I teach mostly. So this is my first pattern with this technique. And the next one. You might have all seen this next one. It was hanging up in the River City, the Rancho Cordova City Hall exhibit on abstract landscapes. Okay, and the last one in the technique before we get on to the actual demonstration is I didn't used to, as you notice in most of the pieces, I didn't do any embellishments or anything in there. It was just straightforward picture, which at that point I wasn't sure if embellishments would really look good with this style of quilting, but I found that actually they do. So that was my try of embellishments with this technique, and actually I think it kind of came out pretty good, so I'll give it a shot in the future. So to start, the way I start is with most, and this goes back to even the pictures and the collage quilting, they all need to start from either a line drawing or a photo. And if it's a photo, I just print it out. Sometimes I make a black and white copy of the photo, and I have to turn this into a line drawing in order to be able to get it to work with the fabric pieces. Okay, so what I do is I insert the picture, into a sheet protector, like that, and I just draw on the front of it with Sharpie and outline the major lines that I want to follow. And that's how I get my line drawing. The one thing about fabric art, unless you want to sit there and sew a million little pieces, which is basically the collage one, you need to make your shapes simplified and a lot bigger. What you can do is embellish them more with your threads, your other embellishments, and your trims and things like that. So you can get more of the feeling of the actual picture by adding that stuff in later. So then once I trace that out, I pull the picture out, I've got this piece, and I put this on the copier and make myself a standard copy of this. Then, what I'm gonna do, once I get the copy set, once I get my straight copy set, I'm going to enlarge it to the size I want. And I always get this one upside down. The falls are upside down. Okay. So I go to the, I enlarge that, and that's what I'm actually the size I'm going to make it on my fabric. And I have one piece of fabric background, which I use. And if it's a dark color, I outline it on a light box. I put the original picture down, the original line drawing, and I trace it in chalk pencil. Now there are all other kinds of pencils you can use for fabric, but a lot of them have chemicals in them, and they're hard to get out of the fabric. I found with just a straight chalk pencil, I get them at art supply stores, that you probably recognize these, that it actually comes off as you work on it and sew on it. The chalk starts wearing out of the fabric, and it doesn't stick. You can iron right over the top of it many times. It doesn't heat set because it's a powdered chalk. it just goes into the fabric. If it's a light color fabric, I just use a mechanical pencil. And what that does is it just puts it on the light fabric, but there's also this nice fabric eraser that erases both the chalk and the pencil right off the fabric. So you can get this at Joann's, different places like that, and it erases a lot of stuff. Somebody once told me it erased blood off the fabric. I tried it, it does not. So don't try that one. So this is what I want. This is what I actually am going to start with on piecing the fabric pieces. One thing I do is when I fold them up and move them from place to place, or if I don't finish working on it, I take it off my easel. And actually I do work on an easel quite often. You'll see as I put it down. It's easier to do it standing up sometimes. Sometimes I do it sitting down. Sometimes my back gets tired. And so it's nice to go up or down. And a piece of tissue paper is to keep the chalk from smearing all over the rest of the fabric. Otherwise, you go to add it again and there's chalk all over the entire fabric. So I do use that. Okay, and the other thing I do, this is my own technique, this is the way I do it. I take my copy, I make 2 copies of my piece. Okay, and one of them, I number all the pieces of the picture. I know it sounds crazy, but it makes this process go like that. Otherwise, you're trying to figure out and everything else. But I know I get this a lot when I teach the class. They're like, "Oh my God!" No, but no. I mean, this does make things go a lot faster. You will be thankful you did this. And then I take the other picture, and this one's actually numbered, but it's got F in front of each number, and there's only so many. But the F means it's fabric number. Because what I do is, when I get my fabrics, I label them as to the fabric numbers I want. So all the pieces that are going to be in this color, I match up with the color of the piece, or the piece that is going to go right on here. And I'll show you in just a minute how that works. Okay? This is the Bernie Falls piece. I got the fabric on them, and this I decided not to use. I always get it upside down there. I know, I do it every time with this one. I decided not to go with black. I decided to go with the wood grain, so I'd have the wood looking through. So you don't always have to go with the black stained glass. You can go with different fabrics through, like this one, I decided is a pillow cover. I decided to go ahead and do it over more of a decorator fabric to put on the pillow. You can do it over white fabric and get kind of a mosaic look. So you can do it over any color fabric you want. You don't have to do it just over black. The black does give you kind of a stained glass look, however. Okay, is there any questions so far? They're like, okay, we want to see what's going on. I'm not quite clear on this numbery thing going on here. Okay, on to the good stuff. So I'm working on my Egyptian piece here, and this one is just a line drawing. I didn't take a picture or anything. I just drew it up, and I've got my piece. This is the actual. This is taken from when I actually drew it. I drew it in this size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass around the numbered pieces of the Bernie Falls one so you can see what I mean as I'm going through it. So you can just take a look at it and kind of pass it on, because I don't have 45 copies or whatever. But this one is just a regular line drawing, and I enlarged it to the size I wanted. My favorite size is about this size to work on. You'll see from all the other samples you see that I don't go huge. Bernie Falls is actually kind of big for me. If I go, a traditional quilt is like a mural for me. That's huge. And I work best in about this size. Okay, so this is what I'm going for today. And what I'm gonna do is I've got what this is called is fusible web. And I use Wonder Under, Pell-On Wonder Under number 805. There's two, there's Pell-On Wonder Under 726 and 805, and then there's 805. 726 is heavy duty and it does not need to be sewn through. Number 805 does, it's more of a lightweight. Okay, the difference between a fusible web, for those of you who are not sewers, the difference between a fusible web and an interfacing is the interfacing is meant to stay in the piece itself because it gives it a stabilization inside the piece. It makes the fabric a little more stable. The fusible web is simply glue. That's all this is glue made into a web that we're going to fuse on, iron on, and then we're going to iron it again onto the fabric, and that's going to glue it down to the fabric. Okay, so that's what a fusible web is. It's just basically glue. Now it does have paper on it, but we're going to end up peeling the paper off when we go to fuse it to the next piece of fabric. Now I'll show you how that works. Okay, so I've got here, let me pass this around. These are my two pieces here. Whoever wants to start. Those. Okay, and you can feel free to ask any questions during, yes.
Good question. What kind of sewing machine do you have?
I have a Brother sewing machine. It's my favorite. I love Brother machines. Bernina is supposed to be top of the line as far as quilters and everything go. And Pfaff is a good one. Each quilter has their own favorite. Bernina, I find you need a learning curve to work. And I don't feel like sitting there and trying to figure out a machine. I just want to sit down and sew the piece. I know. I told you, shortest attention span quilting. And Brothers, they call sewing machines for dummies. So basically, you can sit right down. It's super easy to figure out and sew. So that's my favorite. Any other questions before I move on? Yes, ma'am.
What was the number? You said not an 805, but a different number.
726 is heavy duty, the Wonder Under, and 805 is the lightweight. And 805 is the one I typically use because I sew through it.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to if you don't want to sew through it, you can use 725. 720. Now I'm confused. 726 or 725. 805 is one.
You guys see how I've zoomed in on this piece that's in front of me, and you can see the stitches that she's
Yeah.
put in. So you see that after she's gone through this process, they're stitching at the top of the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see them, but I don't think the people in the back could.
That's okay. This is, this will be, once I get to that, this stage, this is before I put the whole quilt together, and this is all stitched down. And I will pass this one around for you. But has all the pieces put together on it, and that's the next step after I put all the pieces on it and get it fused, is I sew through each one, like Linnell just showed you on the sunrise. Okay, so I've got the fusible web. Now, most people, or most of the time, they tell you to draw on the paper side of the fusible web. What I learned is that if you draw on the paper side of a fusible web, it reverses the pattern. Okay, so I draw on the rough side of the fusible web, which keeps the pattern going the right way. So I don't have to figure out and reverse it. So I get my Sharpie, I get my big piece here, and let's see what we're gonna work on this time. We've got F8, fabric number 8. So I'm going to pick fabric number 8 here, and I'm going to find the numbered pieces on here that match up to fabric number 8, which is right here. I always mark my fabrics. Otherwise, I will come back later to continue working on it, and I won't have a clue as to which one I was planning on going with. But I know that never happens to anybody else. It's just me. I know, getting old is horrible.
Better than
Everybody's
the
like, oh my
alternative.
gosh. They always tell me, you're young. Okay, so I want to take fabric number 8, and I've got one here. I've got one of his little toes. So I'm going to take and do this. And I just take, I've got a Sharpie, and I've got a fine point, and I'm going to just draw right on the lines around, where that's going to go. And is there another one? It'll be on this side, so I'll do two toes right now. And I'll do this middle. Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take and cut just a small piece of Wonder Under out of here. And I'm going to take my fabric. Now I've got the rough side there, and I'm going to iron the rough side down to the wrong side of the fabric. Just like this. Okay? So actually, you can see the pattern through the back side of the fabric. So if you wanted the fabric to go a certain way on a certain piece, you could always fussy it around and find where you want, what print you want on it. But I kind of like serendipity to take its toll, so I kind of just go with it. And I've got my iron. You want to use a hot, dry iron. And these are wonderful. They're fairly new out. Some of you probably know. This is actually a wool mat, and it's designed after the wool horse blankets. It's straight wool, and what it does is it takes the heat from the iron and pushes it back up. So it irons it from both sides.
Nice.
And yeah, they're very, very nice.
Nice, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. The wool pressing mats at the quilt shop, don't tell the quilt shops I'm giving you a tip. The wool mats at the quilt shops are pretty expensive, but they come in the smaller sizes. If you know a horse person, you can usually get a great big one at a feed shop for a lot cheaper, but then you have to cut it down yourself. Okay, and I'm just gonna hold this down for a few seconds to let the glue set. See, now it's ironed on. In order to get this to peel off correctly, I have to wait till it cools. Otherwise, the glue won't set, it'll come right back up if it's still warm or hot when I go to peel this up. So I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna wait. And the key to this whole thing, how I get the negative spaces in here, is I take, and I don't know if you can see this. I take and see where the lines go to the piece? I actually cut right inside the lines. And when I put that down, if I cut inside the lines to all the pieces, by the time I place them next to each other, they've got an automatic black space in between the negative space. So that's really the key to getting the negative spaces. No measuring, super easy. The whole thing is, now you have to figure out which of these pieces goes where. And that's your jigsaw puzzle part. So see, you got 2 hobbies for the price of 1. Quilting and jigsaw puzzles. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my cutting. It actually cools off fairly quickly. See if I can hold this down. Okay, I've got that piece. The other thing you have to be careful of is when you set them down, you don't lose them somewhere on the floor. I have lost pieces on the floor this size. I've actually found them before, but it's taken a few minutes.
You don't have dogs.
I have cats instead. A funny story about one of the cats. One of my cats is, I've got a desk and my sewing machine's on this part of the desk, and here's the part I'm putting together stuff on, and I'm going to go back and sew. So I'm working on this piece and putting it together, and all of a sudden it starts going over the side. And I look down and there's the cat with it in his teeth, dragging it down the side.
Back.
Okay. Okay, now before I take off the paper and put this down, I'm going to check it right here and see if it fits. Actually, I think it's going to go this way instead. Yep, see what I mean about jigsaw puzzle? I had to turn it upside down. But see, it's going to go right in there. Okay, and so I'm going to take off the paper backing. And if you can't get the paper backing off, there it is, then you can score it with a pin and it comes right off. Okay.
Pin is in straight pin as opposed to writing pin?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
sorry, straight pin.
No worries.
Okay, seeing that it's going to go right here, but I don't want to run to the iron every 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a basting glue, and sometimes, this is Roxanne's basting glue, and sometimes I use a toothpick and Elmer school glue, works the same. And I'll put just a drop. You don't want to saturate it, you want just a drop. Okay.
Technically, that was 2 drops, just FYI.
Here, let me add a third, just. Okay, so I'm gonna fit it right inside those chalk marks, right there. Okay, so that's gonna hold it down for me. And this one was on this side. And again, I have to turn it upside down. Nope, it's better this side. Well, it's a little bigger than I want, so I'm going to trim it up a little bit, which happens. Okay. I always keep a wet wipe by me to wipe the glue off on.
Once again, 2 drops.
2 drops, yeah. Depends on the size of the piece. Okay, now I don't tend to be perfect, which is why I gave up traditional quilting. I'm like, here's traditional quilting and the perfect pairing of points and corners and all that stuff, and here's me over here somewhere. So I don't stress over a lot of it. It'll all come together and be fine in the end. So I really don't stress over it. Are you able to see?
Between that and the screen,
screen,
I'm doing
okay.
just
I
fine.
was gonna say, I feel like I need to show you too.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
fine.
you're doing
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Okay. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Dog ate it.
I know, right?
Cut it
That
again.
dog was fast. Two drops.
Two.
See, I beat her to it. It's a race now. Okay. And then I will just continue on with, let's move on to now. One thing I do have to do is continue to put the fabric numbers back onto the fabrics. Otherwise, I will forget which fabric goes where. And where's my numbers? Okay, so those are, that one's 9 and... So we'll go on to fabric number 9 so you can see how the ones next to it goes on. And I kind of just fussy it around until I get them set. And on the side, just that one. So it's the second one. Got it. Then you gotta write big enough so you can see. One thing I have found in doing this is straight lines are hard to do. At least for me, because I can't cut or do anything in a straight line to begin with. And so what I do, I put a whole bunch of straight lines right on his body. These are F10, I believe. Oh, no, what did I do? See, I just messed myself up. I just put a wrong number on here. So I will go with F9. Okay. See, I may have been doing this for a long time, but I mess up all the time. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just put this guy on here using the iron. Let it sit for a few seconds. See, and my daughter's up here drawing. She uses this as her work time while she helps me carry everything around, so.
You're using something that looks like gardening clippers when you cut
Oh.
rather than traditional scissors. Talk to us just a minute about that.
My favorite scissors, and I use them for this because they're actually not gardening scissors, they're called micro tip scissors. So there, you can find them in quilt shops and Joann's, those places. And I like them, they're Fiskars. 2 reasons why I love these scissors is the edges have 2 bevels in them. So they go down very sharp and they go down 1 bevel and again in a fine tip bevel. And they're spring loaded. So if you have arthritis or hard time with your hands, these are super easy on your hands for cutting. They're not like normal scissors where you have to open and close. This does part of it for you. You just squeeze. They're kind of designed like those old, remember way back when those old exercise things they used to have and used to sit there and go like this? That's kind of what they're like. They're kind of like that. But they're really easy on the hands. But thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Point that out. See, after a while I get used to all the stuff I use and it's like, oh, everybody knows that.
Actually, did have a question
Sure.
while you're cutting.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, how do you decide where to start? You start,
No, go ahead.
like, did you start with the moon or, you know, or the sun, you know, how do you decide what the logical place is to start on your design?
It varies from design to design. On this particular one, I did start with the big pieces. For example, when I teach the sunrise sunset, I always have the students start with the middle of the sun and that curve. Whenever you have a curve, it's easier to put the curve down first than it is the straight lines around it. It's much easier to cut some of the straight lines off to get it to fit in the spot than it is to try to maneuver a curve around to fit a bunch of straight line spots. So if there's a big curve like around that one slim curve on the sunrise, or the big curve here, I almost always start with the curve. And then I just kind of move on. Usually if it's if it's bigger pieces, I a lot of times start with those too. It gets most of it done, and I can work down to the middle pieces, the little pieces. Basically, it's according to what I think is going to be easier to fit in next to the other one is the one what way I go. Any other questions while I'm cutting these two?
Do you use all commercial fabrics, or do you dye or paint any of your own fabrics?
Actually, I use commercial fabrics mostly. I do buy some people's hand-dyed fabrics. I don't paint like big pieces of fabrics. If I want to add paint to a piece itself, I'll put it right on. I have taken 3 fabric dyeing classes, and I hated it every minute of all 3 of them. And they were all 3 different. Fabric dyeing is not for me. I'm perfectly glad to support the fabric dyers out there and the commercial fabrics. And to be honest, I love the patterns in the commercial fabrics and the patterns in the other people that dye. I just like them. It's what I like to do, the colors and the patterns.
You said you use paint sometimes on your
Once in a
pieces.
while,
What
if I
type
do.
of paint do you use?
There's fabric paints mostly. Jacquard makes a whole set of fabric paints. They're Luminaire, and those are the kind of the shiny ones. But they have other ones too. Cedar Color makes some that are paints. Some of my favorites right now to use are Sukaneko inks. I love Sukaneko inks. They are super easy to use, and you can mix them and just spray, and right out of a little spray bottle. Awesome. So I'd like to do that. I'm not the best painter in the world as far as painters. You have nothing to fear from me at all. So.
Could you repeat the name of your new favorite ink?
Sukaneko inks, TSUKINEKO, I believe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you have one of these, say, on a pillowcase, how would you clean that?
Actually, you can just pull it off. What you'd have to do is you would have to make it so the pillow form or whatever is removable or washable, because this will go through the washer and dryer. Yeah. Fusible web is sewn down, so it's not going anywhere. Yeah. Even the 725 is designed for going through the washer and dryer without sewing. And you don't need to worry about the basting glue. It's simply holding the pieces down for me until I take it to the iron. That's all the basting glue's for. It's not no other purpose than that. Okay, did I answer your question? Also, there's fabric markers, and Posca paint markers work great on fabric. I use them all the time. I'm trying to think of some of the other markers I use. Colored pencils, color crayons, they work great on fabric. The thing is you have to heat set them. And with crayons, you have to get the wax out of the fabric. So what you'd have to do if you're coloring with crayons, you have to heat set it with, I usually use paper towels, dry paper towels, to get that wax to come out. Otherwise you ruin irons, you ruin all kinds of things with that wax. As soon as that wax is out, then it's fine. It can go through the washer and dryer. I used to teach a class on that type of thing, color crayons and colored pencils on fabric. That was a long time ago. Back in my old days.
So the edges of the fabric don't fray that much when you wash it?
Oh, it will fray a little bit, yeah. The only time you're gonna get fabric really not to fray by doing this process and washing is using batiks. And that's because batiks are a really dense fabric. A lot of the fabrics with patterns and stuff are open weave, a little more open weave, so they have a tendency to fray. And some will fray more than others. One of my favorite type of fabrics is grunge. I love grunge, however it frays really bad all the time. So I'm not that fussy about it. Some people are. So if you're really fussy about it, you just have to figure out a way to go get around that. But I'm like, hey, it's artwork. Which is why I'm surprised I'm not in jail from the quilt police all the time. Because I usually get in trouble for that attitude a lot. Is it this one maybe? Let's see, maybe it was this one. See what I mean? Jigsaw puzzle time.
This is where the art comes in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Where does it look best?
Uh-huh.
I have this piece now. Does it look better here or over there?
I actually I traced a specific piece, but you know what? When I'm fitting them in, as long as it fits in and works, I'm good. And sometimes you just have to trim around it to make it work. I think this one might have gone over here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 drops again.
Well,
So
you're consistent with this.
usually, yeah. Okay. Okay, now. Okay, so I'm just gonna do those pieces so you get the idea, but see how the spaces are filled in, you've got the negative spaces around it. And what I would do here is, another thing with fusible web, you don't wanna iron it too much. Because if you iron it too much, the pull starts wearing the glue off. And then your pieces will start popping up. But what I would do is I would come here when I was done, and this is all, see these are all sticking up, it's because they've got the Roxanne's glue here underneath in spots, but I haven't fused it down. So I'm gonna fuse this down. And I just hold the iron on it, just a few seconds. I'm gonna end up sewing through this, so I'm not really concerned, as long as it stays down until I get through the sewing, I'm okay. I'm not really concerned about, as if I was like the 725, where I'm not gonna sew through it, so I really need it to stick good. Okay, I'm just gonna do the upper part there. And see, that affixes it down, so it's now down onto the fabric and ready to be sewn, ready to go through the sewing once I get all of it on. Okay. Now, after I'm done with this part, I go through the sewing part. I sew each piece down. And I do, this is actually insulation board. You buy it in these huge giant pieces, like 4x8 or something. That's 4 foot by 8 foot at the hardware store. It doesn't come smaller. My husband cuts them down for me, and I put duct tape around the edge, because otherwise all these little foam bits get all over your house. And that's what I use. I have a bunch of these stacked up, and I use them for all the time. And you can put pins right into it, no worries at all. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you wanted to get some insulation board, go together with some friends and split it up. But, and so that's, once I get done with that and I'm ready, and this whole piece is done with the fabric on, I sew around each individual piece, just like you saw on the fox that was coming around, and like Linnell showed you on the sunrise. I just take and I sew. I like to match threads to the thread color to the color of the fabric piece. That's just me. You don't have to. There's a thread called monofilament, a polyester monofilament, and it's a see-through thread. So you can just use that and sew through the whole thing. Some people prefer that.
But you'll notice here she's used a darker thread on this piece, lighter there. I think maybe even a shade lighter on the light piece here.
I switched my thread colors,
Yep.
yeah. I do that quite often. Another thing just one second. And one other thing you can do is if you really want the stitching to stand out as part of the design, you can contrast your thread. Maybe you could use, on the sunrise, you could use the orange and yellow threads for the water and bring the water up. Just, you could do all kinds of different things with the thread. The thread's what really starts adding a little more dimension to your piece.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I was noticing how tiny those stitches are.
Mm-hmm.
What size are you selecting for the length of those stitches?
I just use the standard on the machine. Yeah, you're supposed to, for quilting, and when you quilt pieces together, when you piece on quilts, you're supposed to use a smaller stitch. I always forget until half of it's done, and then I remember I'm supposed to use a smaller stitch. So I just finish it the same, and I've never had a problem. But my pieces are art pieces, and they're really not meant to go through washers and dryers and wear on the bed. These things will cover your right foot.
So you're stitching your pieces and that's your quilting? So-
No.
Oh,
No, because when
Okay.
the fox went around, you'll saw the quilting was only on.
we haven't seen it
They
yet.
haven't seen, they haven't, yeah, they haven't seen these up here, I guess. So when you see it come around, that's actually just sewing the pieces of fabric onto the black fabric. Just like this. This would be, I would take this right here and put it under the sewing machine and sew each piece down. Now when I'm done with that part, what I'll do is I'll sandwich it together. That's with batting, where you put the batting as the middle layer, and you have a backing fabric. And I usually use a spray baste. You can pin baste, or there's other ways you can baste it to hold it together. I just spray baste it, which is a non-permanent glue, and that holds it together while I quilt it. What I do with the quilting, this is how I usually quilt this technique, is I go between each, I go down the black line. I use black thread and go down the black lines, and I redraw the entire picture. So the back has the picture on it also. So that's usually the way I actually do the quilt. Okay, now if you're in a hurry, or you really don't want to go through all those steps, theoretically you can sandwich it and use this sewing these down as you're quilting too. That's quilt as you go, basically. So you can do that too if you want to go ahead and do that. I don't, because I like the picture again on the back, but you can do it either way. Any other questions?
I was just wondering if you ever quilted by hand. Is it difficult to get through the Wonder Under? Is that?
No, Wonder Under is pretty tame as a general rule. There are some other ones. Wonder Under is just one of the fusibles out there. There are several different fusibles out there, brands, types, that are a little tougher to get through. The heavy duty one would be, but I haven't heard anybody have a problem with Wonder Under. It's pretty tame. Misty Fuse is a very, very lightweight one. If you want to fuse together sheers or see-through things, very thin fabrics, Misty Fuse is a good one to use. It's kind of like, I take it to as like glue, using a hair. I mean, it's like super thin. I've had it fall all over my feet, and try to find it and pick it up is a nightmare because it's so thin and so fine. But you can use something like that if you're worried about that. Remember, I'm short attention span quilting. Hand quilting, I'd get maybe 3 stitches in and I'd be done with it. Yeah, that's me. The next, after I get all my quilting done, I'd square up the piece, which just means making it perfectly sized, how you want it, and then I'd bind it, which is, here, this one's a good one. This part right here around the edge is binding. Some of my art quilts I don't bind. Instead, I do what's called facing. And that's where what I do is I sew a big piece onto the side, and then I turn this whole piece over like this, so you don't see any binding or edge. Okay, that's facing. And this particular one is something different. These are all just pieces of fabric that have fusible on them, and they're just all fused down and glued down around the edge. This one wouldn't make it through the washer and dryer. This would all probably come right off. So, but after that's done, I'm pretty much finished with my project, and I'm on to the next one. Any more questions?
What do you use as a hanger? Is it for hanging?
Actually, what I do is, especially when I do like the River City show, why do I keep calling it River City? Because I think the city's words in there. The Rancho Cordova, the City Hall shows are at the MAC or something like that, because I have to hang them so they can hang them on the art things. I run a flat slat through the back. So I make a sleeve, which if you're showing them in quilt shows, you have to have a sleeve. And it has to be 4 inches generally. But I run a flat slat through, and I have my husband puts picture wire on it. So that's usually how I hang them. Okay. Yes.
Actually, you said commercial materials.
Yes.
And fair, there's the quilt show was there this weekend.
Uh-huh.
There were a few that had these specialty materials, like one was World War II airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I go to a fabric store, I'm not gonna find World War II airplanes. Is there a special place that you get specialty material like that?
All over, and actually you may find some at some fabric stores.
Really?
Yeah, the, what,
Is it
well,
quilt shop in Fosterville
that has, yeah, there's new stuff coming out constantly. I mean, the quilting, from what I found out is quilting industry is, as far as leisure activities, is the 2nd largest industry under golf. Yes, believe it or not. I know, we were quite shocked to find that one out.
I was gonna say, I was just at the quilt show in Sacramento, and they had lots of fabric they were selling.
Yes.
Lots and lots of little pieces of different, all kinds of
Yeah,
fabric.
there's fabric all over the place. And what I would do first is I would go online and see if you could find it. Just go on, put World War II fabric.
But I just wondered if there was an Amazon of material, you know?
There's a bunch of them. But
Okay, so
my
you just
favorite
Google
one,
it?
my favorite one is equilter.com. She has tons, and they have a lot of commercial made fabrics from different companies.
Yeah.
Plus they have their own line of fabrics and stuff too. Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and it's huge. The store is
Say the name
huge.
again, please.
equilter.com.
There are also sites that you can upload your own original art to, and then they will print it on fabric.
That's Spoonflower. Spoonflower does that. That was one of the most popular ones. You can not only, your own artwork, you can send your photographs to them, and they'll print it on fabric. They'll print anything you send them on fabric. Yeah. Yes.
What are you experimenting with?
Now?
Yeah, any new things that you're trying out that?
Well, gosh, that's again like asking a golden retriever. I found after growing up and being really not in an art world growing up, but I was a very creative person growing up. I tried painting ceramics, I tried drawing, I tried all kinds of things, but I was never very good at any of them. And finally, when I started moving into the quilt world, and I really had found my medium at that point. So I tend to stay within the fabrics and whatnot. My current favorite thing right now is one of my struggles as an artist has always been abstract. I try abstract, and I may try to do this flower abstract, and at the end it looks like the flower. I don't know why, but I just keep working it until all of a sudden it looks like the flower, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's not very abstract. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do what I'm calling multi-level quilts, and I have a design right now. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it over the summer or not. I'm hoping to. I call it 3 doors, and it's very abstract. It's it'll be one piece, the background piece will be long, and then it'll have smaller quilts attached to it that kind of stick up all around it. And there'll be a door in 3 of them. So I'm working on.
Will we see that in the Motherlode show?
You know what? That gives me a goal to try to finish.
There we go.
Do that, Kim.
Yeah, I've got it drawn. I got the base, the big parts, background all fixed, and I've got the doors, and I've got pieces. It's just kind of all sitting there. You know how it is. And with that, I will. And if there's no more questions, here. There's my sleeves up here. With that, I'll finish with my last quilt. I always end all my lectures with this quilt. My mascot is the flying pig. My motto is anything is possible. And I hope I've inspired you today, and I want to thank you all for having me.
Well, thank you, Kim. That's, Tony turned me off, and then she turned me on.
There we go.
Okay, the other thing that we've all been waiting for is our challenge. And we've got a few artists who have stepped up to the challenge. Where'd you go? And the challenge, for you guys that don't know, is to emulate your favorite painter, artist, in his or her style, and do a painting, okay? So I'm gonna start it off. Guess what? I don't paint, but Carolyn Cunningham does. And Carolyn Cunningham is not here because she's at the fairgrounds overseeing all of the artists who are picking up their pieces and their photos. Okay, so hang on. So, okay, I'll do this in order. Okay, this is what Carolyn wrote. Georgia O'Keeffe isn't necessarily my favorite artist. She underlined favorite. Don't read anything into that. There are so many others I love, but I have always admired her work and love her close-ups of flowers and her. So, here are a couple of Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings that she has. I don't know, maybe that's upside down. Okay. I don't know if they're right side or upside.
Those look right
Those are
now.
a couple of Georgia's paintings, prints of her paintings. And this is what, okay, this one, because she's so top. So this is what Carolyn did.
Nice.
Carolyn is an amazing artist, amazing. Oh, so that is Carolyn Cunningham's painting, emulating Georgia O'Keeffe. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay, so next up we have is Oran. Your name's on the paper.
Okay, well, I didn't bring an emulation, but I want to give a shout out to Linnell.
Oh.
There were so many PAA members who really contributed this year to the fair. But Linnell, you know how she is, I think she does it 24/7.
Rand, could you please use the microphone? I can't hear you. Thank you.
Get to start over,
Nobody's
Oran.
ever said that to me.
Sorry.
Well, anyway, I want to just shout out and thank Linnell for all she did for the fair. She was there every day. Some of us had 4-hour shifts. I think hers were 12. Anyway, thank you again, Linnell, for such a community member that you are and a marvelous leader that we have in you. Thank you.
Well, that was special. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Linnell, you are up next. Have you got something?
I
Of course
do.
you do. You always have something.
So, most of you know that for the last year I've been working in AI using the Mid-Journey program. And when we had this challenge, I already had some pieces done. I didn't bring any examples. So my pieces are in the style of Andy Warhol. And you guys know him, the Campbell Soup Can, Marilyn Monroe, the recent scandal with the Purple Prince, that was a copyright violation, not to say mine might not be. But in any event, I prompted Mid-Journey with imagine flock of sheep in a meadow, mountain range in the background, in neon colors, in the style of Andy Warhol. And these are 2 of the set of 4 that I have. And watch out, Kim, you may see them in the Motherlode show.
Wow, I love it. You just plug in the words. You plug in the words and up pops a picture.
Easy as that.
Sure. Yeah, but you gotta know what words to use. You know, that's.
And let me just say, you cannot use the word breast.
Not if you don't want to
Well,
blush anyway.
okay then.
Not if you don't want to get kicked off the website.
And our last artist who will present is Ellen Nelson. And she's making her way to the front here. Ellen's gathering.
No, she's hunting.
Oh. And here comes Ellen.
These were in the fair, so.
Ellen, can you come back and use the, you need help I can hold up?
Yeah,
Blue ribbon.
blue ribbon on this one.
Judge loved it, Ellen. Judge absolutely loved your abstract piece.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Who
Check.
was the
It was
judge?
Barbara Burge, and our YouTube channel, Placerville Arts Association on YouTube, has a video of her remarks, and you can go to that and see the remarks about your abstract.
Yeah, I was told before to put red in your pictures because the judges like it.
I
I think this is better than that one, but
But
I
Barbara
guess
has her
the
opinions.
judges like red. And what I did, I just slashed this. I mean, it took me just like 2 hours or less. But the reds, I wanted the reds to be in different areas. I started here in the middle and just put some around, and then I decided to go up here, and it turned out really pretty, like the white and the red ended up pink, and actually it's supposed to be turned around.
There you go. That's the way the judge saw it. Green on the bottom, blue on the top.
They won't be able to see the, do you see the fish in here? The angel fish?
Yes.
A lot of people can't see the angel fish. It just came out like this. See it's up there. The front of it's this way. It's facing to this way. But anyway, it's mainly green down here, so that's like grass or whatever. And it's mainly blue up here like sky. But anyway.
2 hours, huh?
Yeah, probably less than that. I had a big brush and only one brush I used for the whole thing. It was about that wide. And this one is, I should have put this one probably in a different category, but it was against a lot of them. I mean, it was under landscape, and of course there's a lot of landscape, but it seems that not very many people do pastel up here. I don't know. I've been here for 2 years from Fresno area, and we all did acrylic or this, and so anyway, I just like colorful painting. So both of these have a lot of color in them.
There was a lot of competition in the landscape category. It was one of the largest categories at the show, at the fair.
What is the media? Is that all pastel?
This one's acrylic and this one's all pastel.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we have a kind of a segue into the fair. Linnell, do you want to give a brief summary of all the hard work that Oran has acknowledged and how it went?
Well, first, let me thank all the volunteers. And there are a lot of you in the room that volunteered at the fair. There are those of you in the room that entered the fair. We appreciate both of those things. We filled 55 shifts with volunteers during the fair. So I think that's pretty amazing. We handled the fine art and photography exhibition. It was a fun exhibition. Had a real good time with the judges. The judges' remarks are up on our YouTube channel at Placerville Arts Association. The reason I do the fair is because it is an incredibly heartwarming experience. Jeannie Parker and I were sitting at the desk last night after the People's Choice Award is done. It's pretty much not much to do. Sunday night at the fair, started to get it really slow. We're just tired. We'd been there since, noon. It's almost 9 o'clock. Lady comes into the exhibit and she has a child in a stroller, and it was so funny because the kid was all leaned back in the stroller drinking out of one of those big, tall glasses that they sell at the fair with this bendable straw, and it was just leaned back and sucking on the straw. And I said, oh my goodness, you have a former Roman god or goddess there. And it turned out it was a little boy with long hair, so thank goodness I threw both of those in. So she wandered around a little bit, and she came back up and she said, I found my son's photograph over here on the partitions, but I can't find my daughter's. And so we said, well, what's her name? And as she was telling us the name, we both looked back behind us, because on the wall behind the desk was all the photography Best of Show awards. And it was a huge wall of Best of Show. And when we looked over our shoulder, the mother saw where we were looking, and she immediately just burst into tears. She was so relieved to find her daughter's photo and excited that it had won the People's Choice Award. I mean, the Best of Show Award. And that's the thing for me that makes it so great. I had at least 3 or 4 kids come up and pose next to their Best of Show awards and have their picture taken with their photographs on the wall. And it's just a great way to start stimulating youth and art. And I'm very excited to announce that the CEO of the fair told me that we're going to move the teen art into fine arts next year. So I'm excited about that. And she's also going to endow a $1,000 scholarship in the name of her mother, who managed the fair fine art exhibit before me. And so Lorna Dillon will be honored with a $1,000 scholarship funded by the fair, not Placerville Arts, so good news on that. And we also gave away Spirit of the Sierra Awards. I want to congratulate Roberta Bassford for winning the Spirit of the Sierra Award in Fine Arts. And Roberta's piece sold at the show. It was wonderful. It was so cool. It was a woman that was probably only in her early 30s, and early 40s. And she came up and she said, I just told my husband I'm buying this and we're going to hang it in the living room. And I'm so excited about it. It was a lovely, lovely piece. Roberta works in oil, and it was of Main Street, Placerville, with horses and it had a real wagon train feel to it, even though it wasn't the wagon train itself, but it was a great piece. And then Lori Hauser sold a piece at the fair. She sold a piece of her fair art. And anybody else in the room that sold, I think we actually sold 7 pieces at the fair, a little over $1,000 in sales this year at the fair. So that's the story on the fair, fun time, and I've already told them I'll do it again next year. And they promoted me this year, I didn't even realize it. I went from department head to department chair, so. But I didn't get a raise. Just a title change.
And didn't the fair office buy one of the pieces too?
One of the pieces that
Plein air?
the fair purchased a plein air piece. We actually had 9 entries in plein air this year. It was a large responsive category. The fair bought, the people in plein air were so funny. There's someone in this room that got second place that didn't even want to turn her art in. The person who sold their art to the fair said, oh my God, it's not even finished. I can't believe they want to buy it. And I sat and watched Vesla paint for 6 hours, and she painted the exhibit. And so, of course, I had to buy that. So I was one of the buyers at the fair. But it was a really fun time. If you guys have the opportunity to participate by entering next year, by volunteering next year, it's so fun. So please come out and join us next year for that.
Thank you, Linnell. And it is fun. I was part of the intake, and that was to see all these little kids, big adults, little adults come in with their pieces. You get to meet everybody, and I was also there for the judging. It's really a neat experience. But okay, so I do want to mention, because we had the art challenge today, and I want to segue into the art challenge next month, which is kind of exciting. Cheryl Gleason is the art director / art curator for the MAC that's in Rancho Cordova. The MAC is going to be hosting, I don't know if that's the correct word, the Motherlode Show. But she is going to be here, and she's going to tell us the elements that she uses in how she judges art. And I think that might be enlightening to a lot of us. Also, she is going to do a critique of art. So what I want you guys to do is remember, first of all, remember to bring in a piece of your art next July 15th. July 15th is the next member meeting. And due to time, we've got to kind of limit it. So right now we're looking at putting, doing a ticket, and you bring art in, you get a ticket. Cheryl is going to pull 5 tickets that she will critique. You know, if time given, we might be able to pull a few more, but it should be an exciting member share meeting, okay? So think about it, okay? And it is in the newsletter. It's all spelled out in the newsletter.
And Cheryl is our judge for the next Motherlode show. So this
No,
is,
fall show.
I'm sorry, the fall show.
Yeah.
Okay, the fall show, right. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Right.
That's right, Cheryl's gonna be hosting or sitting, or you letting us use the MAC for the Motherlode show.
No, we
Which-
pay her. We pay them.
Oh, we pay her the big bucks.
Yeah, we pay rent.
We pay her the big bucks, so it's still good that she's doing it.
But-
Okay, so that.
But
oh,
Cheryl is judging our fall member show.
Yeah.
And that's why
At the
getting her
Government Center.
critique information about what she likes is a nice way for you guys to then pick what you're gonna show at our member show.
Yeah. Okay, so now that I talked, Glow?
Yeah,
Oh, Glow,
Glow,
that's
Glow,
right.
Glow has a special presentation.
Glow would like to share something.
Yeah.
So you wanna come up and do the mic?
Yeah.
I'll even kind of put it down for you.
Oh, are you implying she's a short person?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, I am, so. Well, I wanted to share this because this is my pastel painting, and I just got it back from Sarah Murray, who did the framing. And so I wanted to, show what a good job she does. I mean, she really did a nice
And,
job of
and
framing.
Sarah, do you want to stand up so we can all get a good look at you? This is Sarah Murray, local framer extraordinaire.
Yeah, so, anyway, I've used Sarah's expertise for many years now, and she does amazing work, and I just
Sarah,
wanted
would
to-
you step up to the mic and tell Placerville Arts
Yes,
Association, in addition to framing, the other kind of things that you can do for our artists, please, since you're here?
Oh, true, yeah, because there's just other things. So short, good.
Yeah, I made it short.
Thanks, short people. So in addition to matting framing, I also can photograph your artwork and print on, sorry, thank you. I can print on photo paper, canvas, and watercolor. So if you're looking for prints, CDs, for doing cards, I don't generally do cards because it's not cost effective for you or me at that size, but larger prints, chiclets, canvas stretching, I can do that. I just had a client bring me a large canvas that got shipped to her, stretched it for her, she was thrilled, so.
So what's your company's name?
I just run it under my name basically, but I've got business cards with me, so, I can share those.
And she's also on our member roster, Sarah Murray, and I just wanted to let you know that there's this broad range of services, including professional photography. So those of you who are just lame with taking your pictures, go see Sarah. I mean, because you may get in the Motherlode show. It might make the difference between getting in and not getting in if she does it or versus you do it. No, I'm not looking at anyone specifically, Arlene.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Gloria, for that introduction. And excellent artwork as always,
It
Gloria.
is, that is a beautiful picture, beautiful pastel. What I'd like to do is have Sue Wickersham come up and just give us a brief overview of Motherlode Show, because submissions are open now. They open June 3rd and they close September 18th. So come on up. Did I take the wind out of your sails?
I'm done. I have cards here. They're over here on the desk if you're interested. It tells you how to get to the cafe, which is who we're using this year instead of entry thingy. And the call's open. It's the 58th year for the Motherlode, and this is going to be the 3rd year that we've been at the MAC. And it's going to happen from November 7th to the 23rd. And our art reception is November 8th, which is Friday night. Everybody's welcome to come. We have a great time. We're catered food and drink, and we have a slide presentation. Our judge will be there to present the award winners also. And there's just a lot of, it's a great event, and we've been told, I'm very proud that we have been told that it's one of the best shows that people have seen lately in the last couple of years. So it's awesome. It's just awesome. That's all I can say.
And Sue always tells the judge that we're interested in seeing a broad range of art entered in that show. I believe that's where one of the first places that I saw Kim's work. Did I see it in the Motherlode show?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
entered the last.
and so we have everything from fabric art to assemblage work, original woodworking. We had a leather artist at the show that I'm encouraging to enter the Motherlode this year.
She entered it that day.
She did? Good. Because we really like to celebrate all kinds of art in this show, not of narrow range. They even let me enter AI, so there we are.
And we do that because we want it to be diverse and have something for everyone to look at. I drag my husband around. He just comes because I ask him to. But when I can take him to a show that I know there's going to be pieces that he's really going to like, I mean, he's taking pictures of these things. So it's just, we want a show that everybody can come to and everybody can enjoy and talk about it later on. And it's becoming that show. It's becoming an awesome thing.
So does that include monoprint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing we can't do is it, oh my mind, what's it called? My installation pieces. We can't do that. I had to turn a guy down last year, which was sad. I would love to have seen it. Plus it was a safety hazard, so it's like, oh, can't do that. If you have any kind of questions about whether you think it will work with the Motherlode show, after you read the prospectus, we try to put everything we can, but you can't put everything. It just, no one's going to read it. Just email me, call me, let me know, and I'll let you know. But most everything is explained in the prospectus. But we can't do installations, and we can't guarantee electricity. We try, because we do have some artists that they need electricity. But that's about it. But let me know in case. Yeah. Did you have something else? No, guess not. Okay. Let me know. Oh, yeah, Donna.
Would you explain installation?
So an installation to me is, so this example of this one guy one artist who sent in 3 pieces. When I see them on the computer, they look like 3 different pieces. I see 3 different, but I could tell they went together. And when I read the description, they went together. So he had this huge piece that was over 6 foot long, that was meant to be installed on the floor, with bricks and other found pieces. It was like 3 feet wide by 6 feet. But he mistakenly, he put the wrong, he would have gotten tagged, first of all, if he had put the right measurements down on that. That was too big for us. Plus, then he had this little picture of a shelf with a book that he had created, the book that goes with the piece on the floor. And then I can't remember the third piece that was something that hung. And when I started sleuthing around on the internet and I found his website, and then for sure I knew it was installation because he had all those things in a gallery all in one place. But the way he had entered them was 3 separate pieces. So I let it go through, and the judge actually chose one of the pieces. So when I contacted him, I said, you can't bring all of it, you just can bring the one. And then he wanted to bring the thing on the floor, and Cheryl and I were trying to figure out, well, these are bricks. They're kind of standard size. This has got to be X, Y tall. And so he said, oh yeah, it's 6 foot. And I said, we can't have that. Number one, it's a safety hazard because it meant to go on the floor. So installation pieces are like big pieces, or it's a grouping of things.
A good example of an installation piece is what Lily does with his glass installations, where you'll see a whole room full of his flowers on the ceiling, or a garden full of his new bowls coming up that he's lighting from the top. And if you're going to bring anything more than 50 pounds to any of our shows, please talk to the show chair before you do it. And you're probably gonna have to help with that, set up yourself, because our volunteers cannot be lifting 75-pound things.
We have large pieces that come in like that, and the artists come in, and Cheryl tries to figure out where she's gonna set them, as close to where she's gonna set them. Last year we had a few like that.
I think American Totem and also the Best of Show last year would both be two examples of that.
Yeah.
American Totem were 3 pieces between 4 and 6 feet tall of assemblage art.
Solid wood.
And that artist has her husband haul him around on a dolly, get him in and out of his truck.
With a winch.
Bring him in with a winch. Yeah, it's like a big deal. And so we don't do that for you. That's got to happen. But that I think I agree with you about that insulation piece on the floor. Unless you'd roped it off, it would have just been impossible.
We actually tried. He arrived. He drove from LA to the MAC in Rancho Cordova, and to bring his book, and he actually had that piece in his car or truck, whatever he had. And before that, we Cheryl and I discussed it and how can we do this, and we kind of decided no, so that when he understood, which was cool. So but he brought it anyway. I said I would love to see it, but we just can't. At this point, we know everything that's coming in. We don't have room for that to be on the floor. It wasn't accepted.
And we already had 2 very large sculpture entries that year, and
Yeah.
it just no room for it.
And the one that won Best of Show, these are the pictures that are on the card, are some of the award winners. The one that won the Best of Show is this sculpture here. It was about this tall.
Yeah, about 5 feet.
And it's all polished aluminum. We couldn't touch it. So he had to bring it in from the side door, the double doors and all, and bring it in, and we placed it right where it was gonna sit. And Cheryl, that's the wonderful thing about renting the MAC is we have Cheryl. And I couldn't do the show without her.
She's a wonderful curator and very helpful. We were in a gallery in Sacramento before, and we did not get any gallery assistance whatsoever. We had to do, back in the Glow years, she's shaking her head, yes, that's true. We had to do every bit of everything ourselves. And the year I took over from Glow for a year in between Sue, I actually had to unlock the door and close up myself. She wasn't even there at all. So we get a lot of services at the MAC. It's top shelf. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. My goal is that we become an event, or that this show becomes an event. And I think we're getting there. The judges that we're interviewing and that are accepting we're getting higher and higher of caliber of judges, and so I'm just looking forward to the next couple of years.
Yeah, good work, Sue.
No, thank you. So,
Thank you.
let me know. Thank you.
I just want a few minutes to give a bit of history. Lucia Rothgill is here with us, and Lucia was the instrumental member that ran the Motherlode Show for years and years. And this was,
and Glow Vernon in the back there too.
I was gonna get there. And Marilyn, Glow, when I look at you, I think of panels. Setting up, storing the panels, setting them up. This was at the Shakespeare Club. But this was before we had a third party who handled the entries, because our third party was Lucia. And the hours and hours you spent on getting the Motherlode Show up and running, and again, that was at the Shakespeare Club, which all we did was rent the space. We had no help at all. It was fun, it was bonding the members, but trying to get the schedules in. And Lucia, what year did you take on?
Oh, history, I forgot.
Probably 1913.
So we ended with the 50th?
Oh, we had the 50th
was there.
luncheon there.
And we're on 58 now.
I'm thinking, wasn't it like 1955 was the inception of PAA?
1955.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our first Motherlode, I think, was 56, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got history.
I was in kindergarten.
And Glow played a big part in the setup. And
Not for the first
Sue,
show.
you alluded to Sacramento Fine Arts, where we moved from the Shakespeare Club to Sac Fine Arts, where again, we were all on our own. And last year was our first year at the MAC.
No,
Second year? Okay. Last year, well, we've had 2 years at the MAC, we're going on our third year, and it is a gallery. And it is run by a professional person. And Sue has gone out and procured Cafe, which is the tool on how we enter the show. So, you know, it's evolved, Lucia. It's
And
evolved.
so it should.
And for our members in the room that are wondering, why don't we do this up here? The Shakespeare Club is the most likely venue. We get bare rooms there. It's about twice the cost of what we pay to go down the hill to the MAC. And we have to be in attendance the full time of the show with our own staff members. At the MAC, the curator is there and attends the show, handles any of the financial transactions that we need done. And although we try to provide a volunteer on every shift that we're open, it's not the same kind of pressure that it was at the Shakespeare Club, where we literally were given a key and had to open the door, and if the lights didn't work, we had to chase down the maintenance man. So this is the reason we do it down the hill, but we're always open to finding the right spot up here. So if anybody has a suggestion, let us know, and maybe we won't move the Motherlode show there, but we might do a member show there.
We could do that, but also by going into Rancho Cordova, we have increased our membership multitude.
Yeah.
So many members from, there's so many of our members are from the Sacramento, Rancho Cordova area. They love what they see, and you know, quite frankly, I've been to other art shows. Nobody can hold a candle to the Placerville artists, really. We are all amazing, we are. So, and one more shout out to Marilyn. Marilyn is back there too. Marilyn worked right alongside of Lucia and was so good in taking care of all the food. Overseeing the food and getting others to help and set up quite a reception. So I love the history, and I love that I could see some of it. So,
And Marilyn is our historian also.
And Marilyn is our historian and fill in me, right? She filled in for me last month. Okay, one more announcement and then I'll get you out of here. There is a call to artists. And it is a winery exhibit. And I'm thinking exhibit, a winery art show. And there's 3 wineries in the Somerset area. Mellowwood Vineyard, Vista del Morado Winery. Did I say that wrong?
Mirador.
Mirador. And Golden Leaves Vineyard and Winery. And the show, it's the art show, and it's June 29th and 30th, a Saturday and a Sunday, and there are plenty of spaces still available.
Free to the artist.
Free, no commission, what you see is what you get. You sell, you get the whole thing. So think about it, it is in the newsletter, and it's got all the details there. And with that, I think we're done.
It's a wrap.
We're done.
Wait, question.
Raffle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gotta give the flowers away.
I always forget. Okay. Done. Hold on, okay. We have got, it looks like 30. We've got 30 names that are registered. So, I want you to pick, okay, we need 2 numbers.
But on each list, it only goes to how many? So one list is 1 to what, and the other is 1 to what?
Oh, you want to break it up?
Well, I mean, we got 2 bouquets.
Well, I know, so I just wanted 2 numbers.
Well, I know, but what if we give you 6 and 10? On which sheet is 6 and which sheet is 10? I just want the rules of this
Good.
function to be correct.
Aren't you clever?
Kathy, we know I'm not a great artist, but I'm a great manager. There we go.
I'd say, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, let's do this one. Let's go with numbers. These are the guests. Ooh, okay, 1 through 8. Lucia, pick a number. 1 through 8. 7. Joanne Fong.
Are you still in the room, Joanne? Admit it, because you're getting flowers.
Joanne has
Oh, Joanne left the building.
Okay, pick another one, but don't pick 7. 1 through 4. Linda Erfel?
Now she's gone too. It's earthly.
Well, they were here for
Earthly.
Kim. The rest of us, poof.
Oh, there you go. Okay, pick another one. Yeah.
5.
Oh,
5.
5? I thought, boy, that's an enthusiastic. Go for it, Lucia. 5 is Penny Rogers.
Yay! We got one! All right! Here comes the charm.
Okay, now the second number, the second drawing is 1 to 22. And Glow, why don't you pick a number?
10.
10. 10 is Lucia.
All right!
Yay! Okay, look at that, it's 4:30. We are done.